the beginning of time, Cain was cursed for the crime of murdering his brother Abel. The first murderer became the first of the immortal race of beings that would come to call themselves Cainites, after their progenitor, and would in time call themselves the Kindred, what the humans would come to know as vampires. He wandered the earth alone for some time, but soon loneliness overtook him, and he showed himself before men. Cain satisfied himself with the blood of these mortals, but soon loneliness overtook him again. Being the only one of his kind bothered him, and he used his cursed blood to create others like himself. The first was the king of men, Enoch, to rule men in his name. The second was Irad, the greatest of warriors, to be the leader of his army. And the third was Zillah, the fairest of women, to be his mistress. The first city, renamed after its immortal king, Enoch, thrived on the power and knowledge of Cain and his brood. Enoch grew into an empire, and food and resources were plentiful for its people. To manage the great empire, the children of Cain also learned to raise others like themselves, and thus came the third generation. So, the 3 sons of Cain became many with the coming of descendants. The second generation had 13 children who were scattered across the empire, and some of them also raised their children, the 4th generation. But the first city became populous and corrupt. The situation became unsustainable, and humanity stopped growing and prospering. The sons of Cain corrupted the gods' greatest creation, so the gods decided to take revenge. Anu and Ninhursag chose the most virtuous of mankind and ordered them to build a great ark to preserve their lives. Then it rained on earth for 40 days and 40 nights. All earthly creation was deluged by a great flood, and thus the first city disappeared, along with all its inhabitants. Cain, embittered, decided never to return to the world of men again. After the great deluge, the chosen ones of the gods repopulated the earth. For many generations, men multiplied again and prospered without the intervention of the false gods, the sons of Cain. Men have forgotten the ancient gods who ruled them and forgotten the knowledge of the first city. The gods were patient and made sure that no trace of the past would influence humanity again for a long time. However, a century after the flood, the members of the third generation, previously in deep sleep below ground, began to awaken. Realizing the Dark Father's absence, they banded together and murdered the members of the second generation. Upon feeling the death of his children, Cain returned one last time to punish and curse his grandchildren for the crime committed. So, Cain prophesied that if the ancient law of Enoch, the first city, was again disrespected, he would return to collect the blood of all his descendants, as he would not tolerate another flood happening and humanity paying for the corruption of his breed. But as the second city grew, so did its populations of Cainites, and soon there became too many for the city to sustain. Ilias of the Learned clan suggested a purge, in which all third-generation members would eliminate those fourth- and fifth-generation members deemed unnecessary. His suggestion divided opinion amongst the antediluvians, but in the end, each would return to his domain and choose from among his breed which would be spared, and which would be purged. It is not known to this day who warned the younger ones about the imminent danger, but the news spread and caused fear, revolt, and indignation in the Cainite population. Then someone decided to act. Troil, Elias's eldest progeny and his right-hand man in charge of the family, decided not to hand his brothers over to death. Troil rallied young men of his lineage and other families, organizing a surprise attack on Ilias's temple of worship. And for the first and only time in history, a third-generation Cainite fell under the fangs of his progeny, just as the second-generation Cainites had. But instead of just murdering, as they had the children of Cain, Troil sucked Ilias's blood dry and absorbed his essence and strength, becoming third generation in his place. Most of his bloodline recognized Troil as their new leader and followed him in his revolution. Revolt and unpunished crime did not go unnoticed in society, and soon conflicts began to emerge again, and transgressions to the traditions of Cain became frequent again. It didn't take long for the second city to collapse. The Cainites found themselves adrift again, but in time they found themselves in Mesopotamia, and there turned to the methods of the second city to sustain themselves and their power, masquerading as the gods that walk the earth, the Anunnaki, and taking their blood as tithe from the mortals that worship them as living gods. The third and fourth generations that still walk the earth became the true living gods, adopting the names and the countenance of the deities that those in Sumer and Assyria worshipped, and organizing those underneath them into a system in which Cainites are recognized as the Anunnaki, and must be worshipped and revered by the mortals of the city. But Ningirsu, the living god of the cities Lagash and Girsu, and a fourth generation member of what we would now call Clan Bruja, has conquered Lower Mesopotamia and holds power over the cities of Eridu, Lagash, Girsu, and Nippur. He has commanded that the cities rule themselves as they would under their living god, but that the clans be treated equally, independent of their status. His commands have led to friction between Ningirsu and the other living gods, particularly those of Ventru's line, who chafed to be led by one of Clan Bruja, who destroyed the second city. Moreover, they are insulted by the command to treat the dissidents of the Legacy, those who in their eyes led to the destruction of the second city, equal to the so-called heirs of their Eden. And so a plot was hatched between Ishtar, living goddess of Uruk, and the founder of the Clan of Roses, and Nidaba, living goddess of the city of Ur. Utilizing the king of Uruk, Lugal-Zagessi, as their pawn, they have fabricated a claim against Ningirsu and mean to soon remove him from his throne.